today I am interviewing Samantha Bennett, who is the creator of the Organized Artist Company and also senior facilitator at Sam Christensen Studios. Welcome, Samantha.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm glad to be here.
Great. Well, let's get right down to the business of your work. You are, as I said, a senior facilitator at Sam Christensen Studios, specializing in personal branding and identity definition. Your work led to the creation of the Get It Done workshop and, by extension, the creation of the Organized Artist Company. So why don't you tell us about each of these companies and how one dovetails into the next?
Sure. I'm a working actor and writer in Los Angeles, always have been, and when I started teaching with Sam about, coming up on 15 years ago now, we would do all this work with people to help them create a vocabulary by which they could better express themselves. So we do some research on who they think they are and who everybody else thinks they are, and then we create a vocabulary with them that helps them communicate that. And then these students were walking out loving the process. They become rabid groupies, but they didn't always know what to do with the information once they had it. They were like, this is great, but what do I do? Okay. And it was so obvious to me what to do. So I started to take a look also at my own creative work and try to figure out, how do we market ourselves? How do we stay motivated? How do we keep working on the projects that only we seem to care if they happen? There's no quarterly reviews about how your novel's going, right? And it's hard to stay motivated. It's hard to stay, into those projects. And as I did more research, I found a lot of business books about how to manage your time and how to be more efficient. But, creative people don't care who's moved to their cheese. And there's a lot of creativity books out there, but a lot of them are about sort of unleashing your inner artist or your spiritual healing through creativity. And for those of us whose inner artist is plenty unleashed, thank you very much. How do we stay on track? How do we manage our money? How do we manage our time? How do we manage the rest of our lives? People are parents and we've got a lot going on. So all of this led me to start creating a lot of exercises and worksheets so that people could take a look at their own creative process, get unstuck from some of both the external and the internal barriers to success, and really move forward and get their work out there in a way that was really meaningful to them.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Hence, basically, getting organized as an artist, right?
Yeah. So it's not like I've got some incredible system and everybody should just do it my way, but I've got some incredible systems for you to figure out what your incredible system is. Perfect.
Everybody's a little different, especially when you talk about artists. You can't hem them in, right?
Right, and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, true.
Which, if you're asking me, entrepreneurs are definitely artists.
True. Visionaries, for sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about personal branding first. Can you tell us more about what you think personal branding means today and how people use technology in particular and new services to embark on this very increasingly important mission of ongoing branding?
Sure. First of all, I think we can all agree that there's almost not a worse phrase in the English language than personal branding. It just sounds awful. It sounds painful. It sounds wrong. Exactly. It's not a good phrase.
Right.
But the idea behind it is not just good, but essential. You need to be communicating the clear, authentic truth about who you are and what your values are and how you operate, which is different from your skill set. It's different from we're not talking about the things that you've learned how to do or the achievements that you have, especially in this internet age. I can find out anything, I need to know about you, right?
Right.
I don't want to brag. My work should speak for itself. Yes, your work should speak for itself. So we're not talking about going around bragging about how great your work is. That's annoying and rude.
Yeah.
However, communicating the truth of the kind of person you are is essential, and we get very little training in it. But it's so critical because, especially for an entrepreneur's point of view, when you are putting out a clear, consistent, truthful message about who you are and what you do, you become like the whistle only dogs can hear. Other people who vibe with you and who like what you do will find you.
Yeah.
And they will tell their friends, and you'll have this wonderful tribe of customers and clients and fans and, whatever it is you're doing, readers, whatever it is you're doing. Mm-hmm. When that message is muddied, when that message is insincere, when that message is confusing, you hamper your own success.
Okay. So how do you have any quick tips, bulleted list tips about how you make your message not muddy or confusing and clear and honest?
Yeah, some of it is pay attention to the feedback you get. I tell people to keep a list of all the compliments you get.
Okay.
Over the course of however amount of time, and don't get distracted by who said it or why you think they said it or what you think they meant, just what they wrote down.
Okay.
I mean, just what they said, so, oh, thank you, aren't you nice? Nice, oh, you look pretty, looks pretty, anything that people are saying. And you'll start to notice that the feedback, first of all, you're getting a lot more feedback than you know that you're getting. We're trained to sort of not notice this giant flood of feedback that we're getting.
Interesting.
Well, and we're also too hung up on that thing that one kid said in the third grade,
Which one?
Or that thing our mother always said, we get hung up on these little ideas.
Right.
So to just start to notice what are people noticing about you? And I'm going to guess it's pretty much the same thing that people have been noticing about you your whole life. Mm-hmm. If you're inquisitive, you've always been inquisitive. And you're inquisitive in every area of your life. You're an inquisitive lover, you're an inquisitive spiritual seeker, you're an inquisitive business person. You just have to know. And to notice, too, that it shows up as a spectrum. So if you're inquisitive, you've been everything from, delightfully curious and fun to talk to snoopy and pushy and nosy. Right. Peeping Tom.
Stalker,
exactly. And if you're funny, you've been hilarious, and I guarantee you have been inappropriate. If you're inspirational, you've been bossy.
Yeah.
Because that's sometimes what it takes. So to stop thinking of our behavior as good or bad, like this is the good stuff and this is the bad stuff,
okay.
But instead just to take all that feedback as information and say, okay, what's really the information I'm getting here? Wow, everybody thinks I'm enthusiastic. So I'm going to make that my sign-off on my emails. Enthusiastically yours, Sarah or Suzanne or Jennifer, whatever. I'm skeptical, and so I'm going to start using that in my Facebook postings, in my marketing language. If you're like me, you just don't take somebody's word for it. I did all my own research because I'm skeptical and I have to know. And when it's true, we know it's true. We're very good about other human beings. We're pretty smart. So when somebody says something that's true about themselves, we go, oh, you are? Yes. Good. And it makes us feel comfortable because the truth is relaxing.
Yes.
Right. And honesty is a very safe place to be.
So do you go so far as to take this feedback that you've documented and create either a personal branding mission statement for yourself or even a slogan for yourself?
Absolutely. Because we need to stay connected to the truth of who we are. We get distracted. We get distracted by our moods. We get distracted by stress and tension. And certainly in times of stress, we revert to our level of preparation. Right? In times of crisis, we revert to our level of preparation. That's why we have fire drills. That's why people rehearse plays. And that's why you rehearse your elevator speech. So that when you are under scrutiny, when the heat is really on, if you have practiced you've got something to grab onto. Suddenly you're in the elevator next to somebody you would really like to impress.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to just come up with something brilliant in that moment.
I would.
You might, but I'd hate to bet on it, But if you have spent some time on the idea of who you are and what you do and expressing that in a way that really feels yummy to you, then you have something to say that feels great, that doesn't feel pushy or salesy or weird, but just feels like a normal communication. Okay. But you have to practice. And having those little slogans, having those little mission statements can really help. It also really helps with decision making.
Okay.
I have one of mine, it sounds kind of silly, but one of mine is that I like to help. I like to help, which sounds so like Girl Scout and so fourth grade of me, except it's been really valuable for me. It means that sometimes I've turned away clients because I feel like they don't really need my help.
Oh.
So I'm not that interested in working with them.
Interesting.
I'm like, no. But it also means that I need to know that I have helped. So I put a survey at the end of everything I do.
Okay.
At the end of every meeting or encounter, I say, great, how was this for you? What's your feedback? Because I need to know that my work has had an impact.
Okay.
I could never just work, in a cubicle or doing one part of a job and never seeing its impact.
Right. That makes sense.
So it helps. Yeah, so it helps me make choices, just knowing, and helps me figure out how to structure things, just knowing that about myself and being able to say, well, I'm helpful.
Yeah, right.
I'm helpful.
Yeah.
My work helps.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it keeps you focused, right? And if you had taken on the project that you felt in your gut was not something you would be happy doing because they didn't need your help, that's not a project you would have been very good at.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now, how about in terms of social media? I mean, there's got to be a huge interconnection between social media and personal branding. Do you have any comments about that or any specific tips when it comes to dipping your toe in the social media waters?
Absolutely. I mean, again, it's an incredible opportunity to express the truth of who you are. And for me as a business person, the real advantage to social media, well, there's two, actually, that I can see right away. One is it keeps me in touch with all the people that I've ever been in touch with. People that I normally would have never, I did a play with them 15 years ago, or I grew up with them in Chicago, and we would never see each other again. But thanks to social media, we're still connected. And now that person I grew up with in Chicago is a publisher at a magazine, or runs a group, or has a puppy I want to adopt. I don't know,
Right.
We don't know where all this is going, but it's great to maintain those connections. So much of our success is dependent upon our relationships. But the other reason is that it's perfect for marketing. If marketing is the process of getting people to know you, like you, and trust you, social media is an amazing way to just, again, keep putting out that clear, consistent message of the truth of who you are. So people start to know you, like, her, I know who she is. Oh yeah, she's the one who says that stuff about the, getting your creative work out there. Oh yeah, I know who she is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that alone, when I ran into a woman that I hadn't seen since college in the grocery store a month or two ago, and the first thing she said to me was, wow, your business is killing it. You're just doing great. I'm like, okay, see, that's why social media matters.
Yeah.
Because I have not talked to this woman in over 20 years. But she knows what I do.
Yeah.
And her impression is that my business is going great.
That's great.
You can't buy that.
You can't. I got a notification in my email a couple of days ago. It was just yesterday, and it said, so-and-so, and it's somebody I used to do writing for, is following you on Pinterest. I'm like, oh my gosh, I better go and see what I'm doing on Pinterest because I've neglected it for a while. So
right?
It's interesting though, because, who knows, maybe, if I do the right thing on Pinterest, I'll get another writing assignment out of her. So,
well, and that's just it. We don't, like I said, we don't know where this is going. So it's another one of the really great reasons to be really honest and sincere about what you're putting out there, so that maybe your career changes course, or maybe, maybe you need to make a big push. You've got a book coming out and you really need all hands on deck. You need everyone you've ever met in your entire life to buy a copy. These are great connections to have, but only if they're good connections. Yeah. So the other proviso I would put on this is hang out with the people you vibe with. People you don't vibe with, don't pursue them. Don't hang out with them. They do not call up your best work. They don't call up your best self. You don't like them.
Even if that person's in a position of power, authority, or could potentially step ladder you to a place you want to go, if you don't vibe, don't do it. Okay. All right.
As a general rule of thumb, of course, there's exceptions for everything, and sometimes those people we don't particularly like can be of great, can really teach us stuff and be of great service to us. But on the whole, when you're driving, when you have the choice to make, go with the people you vibe with.
Okay. Now, how about in terms of, I'm not sure if this falls into the realm of personal branding, but I kind of think it does. When it comes to criticism or negative comments geared toward you as a person that happen via social media or the internet, I think that's a function of personal branding. And how do you deal with that?
First of all, you recognize it as a two-step process, because you're going to have that ego flare-up. You're going to have that emotional reaction. If your feelings are going to be hurt, and you need to allow a little time for that to happen. So acknowledge that, whine, cry, call your best friend, have a glass of wine, beat the mattress with a wiffle bat, whatever you need to do to sort of work through your own emotional reaction, because you're going to have one.
Yeah.
And then you get to go to your most spiritually evolved place and notice a couple of things. One, someone cares enough to criticize. They've taken time out of their life to tell you that they think you're doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. This is, at its heart, really good news. You've inspired a feeling. You've inspired a reaction. Someone's thinking something about you. So I start from a place of gratitude with that. Thank you so much for writing. Thank you so much for taking the time to say something to me. And then I do two things. One is I look for the truth in what they're saying. What's something horribly negative that somebody could say to you that would just really hurt your feelings?
For me,
Sarah, you're so...
That I'm unkind.
Sarah, you are so unkind. All right, so now, again, we go to our very spiritually evolved place, and I would add the word sometimes to the end. I am so unkind sometimes. And just hang out with that idea. We don't need to love it. We don't need to agree with it even, but just can I find a place where that's true? I am so unkind sometimes. I am unkind sometimes. I've noticed that about myself. I thought something this morning that was simply appalling. I absolutely am unkind sometimes. I didn't think I was being unkind in this very moment, but perhaps I was. I've been unkind. I've noticed other people being unkind. It's certainly happened. I can't deny this person their experience. You're being unkind. No, I'm not. Okay. You can't call them a liar. So first I just find the part of it that's true, that I can agree with. And it's almost always something.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a vocabulary issue. I didn't think I was being unkind. I thought I was being honest. I didn't think I was being unkind. I thought I was being funny. Right? But I get it that it felt to you unkind. And so I thank them for sharing that with me. But I don't try to correct their experience. I don't try to argue with them. And it's the same thing for positive feedback, which sometimes can be even harder to take than the criticisms.
Yeah.
You're so brilliant. You're such a genius. No. Well, again, what? They're a liar? If somebody wants to, So I do the same thing. I'm so brilliant sometimes. Sometimes.
Damn.
It's happened. It's known to happen. There's brilliance. Sure. You are such a genius. Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes. Thank you.
Yeah, I like
Thank
that.
you so much for taking the time to notice, and I find the truth in what you're saying, and I acknowledge the truth in what you're saying.
Nice. Excellent tips. I like those. They're very, very workable. I can see myself using all of that. All right, so we've talked about the personal.
That's good. I love to help.
Yeah, you are. You're so helpful.
Thank you.
All right, Sam. Let's talk a little bit about how you handle marketing. I mean, obviously, your forte is establishing customer relationships. It would have to be. And I would imagine you accomplish quite a bit of this using database marketing. I understand that you use Infusionsoft just as we do at Razor Media. And I'd like to get some ideas from you on what features of a customer relationship management tool, CRM tool, you find most beneficial, and how do you use them?
The big thing for me is absolutely email marketing. That's absolutely because I'm a one-person shop, and I have no budget for anything. So for me to be able to communicate directly with the people that vibe with me, the people that I like, for me to be able to speak personally one-on-one with them through email it's the only reason I have a business. I mean, and I'll tell you my initial follow-up sequence, and I think this is kind of hilarious.
Okay.
When you sign up at theorganizedartistcompany.com, and there's some lead magnet, you get a free teleclass or a recording or a webinar or something, whatever I've got up there right now. And then you get started on my initial follow-up sequence. You get a double opt-in email and a welcome email, and then you only have about 2 or 3 days before they forget that they've ever signed up anywhere or heard of you at all. Mm-hmm. So I tend to over-communicate in those first couple of days so that they remember who I am. Also, a sincere branding statement. I tend to be kind of an over-communicator. So I want to introduce that idea to people right away. If they're not wanting to get a lot of emails from me, my list may not make them happy. They may want to opt out right away.
Okay.
So I communicate quite a bit in the first couple of days. And the first bunch of stuff they get are they're poems, for lack of a better word. They're poems. But they're sort of funny poems. There's one called The Prayer for the Capable. There's the Ode to the Overwhelmed. There's one for the Grumpy. There's one for the Entrepreneur. And they're sweet. They're funny, and they're sweet, and they're very heartfelt. And by the time somebody gets 2 or 3 of these, they think I'm their sister.
Yeah. I get that feeling. You feel a personal relationship.
Exactly. And what I love about this is that there is no business book in the world that's going to say, here's what you do. Write a bunch of poems.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But because of who I am and the kind of person I am, and because of the kind of people my people are, it works brilliantly for me. And I never have to worry about competition. I never have to worry about anything. I mean, I can just, because we've started out on this real heart-to-heart level, and again, my work is about personal growth and art and awakening your creativity and moving forward and being productive. So I'm coming from a very positive place anyway. And I love to write. So for me, the email marketing is it's incredible to me that happens without me even, while I'm at the beach.
Yeah, right. Well, now, how do you measure your progress in terms of customer engagement? Do you resort to metrics? I'm sure you're a metrics follower. It sounds like you are.
I am, and actually, it's one of the things I like best about being an entrepreneur is that, all these years in the arts, you can never tell why something works or why it doesn't, really. You can have a show and it's going to look, for all the world like, oh yeah, this is going to be a big hit, and then it never goes anywhere. or something you think this is never going to work, and then all of a sudden it's a big hit. Even in a postmortem, you can't even really say, oh, this was a success, the show worked for this reason or that reason or this reason or that reason. But in business, there's metrics. You can measure success. There's some predictable behavior, and once you've done something once, you can do it again. So, wait, hang on just one second.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
So, and so I love that. Yeah. So I definitely keep an eye on my open rates, even though we know that the open rate isn't a very reliable number. It's sort of the only one we've got. And then absolutely clicks, trackable links, click-throughs, views when I can. With my audios, I use Audio Acrobat so I can see not just how many times it's been listened to and downloaded, but for the listens, I can see how far they listen in.
Oh.
So the plays to completion.
Interesting.
Which is great.
Okay.
Yeah. I had one time a teleclass. It was a free preview class I was offering as a promo for the Get It Done workshop. And I do these super content-heavy calls. They really stand alone as a class. But there is a little bit of sales in there. And for this particular one, I had a friend who wanted to come on and do a little testimonial for me, which was lovely. And her timing was that she was only available during the first 15 minutes of the call. So I sort of did a little intro, and then she came on and talked, and she's super enthusiastic, loves my work. And so it got a little salesy there for about 4 or 5 minutes. And then she jumped off the line, and then the rest of the 55 minutes is, like I said, all content. But the minute I posted the audio and people started listening to it, I know they were dropping off right at that 9-minute mark. So I put a little note next to the download box that said, there's a little pitch for the class about 9 minutes in, but if you can, fast forward through those 3 minutes if you want, there's a lot after that. And sure enough, immediately those plays to completions went up.
Wow, that's incredible. The ability
right?
to respond like that immediately. I mean, it's completely it would have been unheard of how many years ago without it. It's certainly for a one-person company. Traditionally it would have taken teams of marketing analysts, and focus groups and what have you to figure that out.
And then I have this thanks to this technology, I have this global reach. I have, clients in Finland and Italy and Australia and New Zealand and Japan and Singapore and Mexico. They're everywhere. A Welsh performance artist living in Buenos Aires. It's amazing to me.
Wow.
That's so thrilling. It makes me so happy.
And how long have you been using email marketing and Infusionsoft, databases and so forth for your efforts?
Well, I've always, as email has progressed, I've always used it. And like I said, I started teaching the material for the Organized Artist Company, probably 10 or 12 years ago. But it was really only but it was always one of a lot of things I was doing. I would sort of occasionally offer a class but then a couple of years ago, when God sends you the same postcard 13 times, fine, okay, we'll do it your way. I had a bunch of projects that sort of fell away. Some came to their natural conclusions. Others just sort of disappeared. And I found myself sort of going, oh, great. Now I got to go, dig up some more gigs. And then I thought, I wonder if I could just do this Organized Artist Company thing full time. And I thought, wow, I guess I better get some business cards. And really early on, I signed up with Infusionsoft. And it was far and away the smartest thing I ever did. Partly because it was a huge investment. It's still very expensive, and it was very expensive then. Mm-hmm. And I did not have the money. There was no budget. But I knew that that's where my business was going. I had already been really frustrated that there wasn't, with everything, I couldn't figure it out, that with everything computers could do and everything the internet could do, that every time I did a mailing, I was essentially hand sorting my list. I was going through my contact list going, yeah, I should send to that person. Oh, yeah, that person totally said they were interested. I think that person already took this class. Wait, do they still live in Chicago? And my list was outgrowing my brain. You know, I couldn't remember. I'm like, who is that person? I have no idea who they are. So I couldn't, you know, it was really annoying me. And Infusionsoft was the only thing I could find that could handle that problem for me. So I, in just an enormous leap of faith, signed up, chained myself to my desk for, I don't know, a week to learn the system, which is still not the world's most intuitive system. And again, back then, really not. Yeah. But I had to learn it because I needed it to pay for itself before the American Express bill came.
Oh,
you know, I needed it to pay for itself.
Wow.
Immediately.
That's a quick return that you're looking for.
Yeah, so it really lit a fire under me. I mean, it really made me step out in a much bigger way than I would have. I started buying Facebook ads. I really pushed it, and even just having the opt-in box on my website, you know, grew my list instantly. And then being able, through the affiliate program, being able to do joint ventures, and you know, I have some people I love and respect, and I mail for them, and they mail for me, and we all make money, and it's fantastic. So to have access to all these tools so that I can, you know, I can operate as though I were a much bigger company with a much bigger budget than I am, just because of the efficiency of the web forms, the click-throughs, you know, being able to track all those metrics. But I mean, I started out a couple of years ago with a list of about 700, and my list is now 7,000.
Oh my! Wow. That is
in 2.5 years. So.
Yeah.
Was that April 2009? So whenever, and now it's February of 2012.
Well, those numbers speak for themselves, don't they? All right. Well,
and I will also say, and it's not just any 7,000. Like I said, my people are rabid fans. Every time I do one of those affiliate mailings, I hear back from people like, "Wow, your people are really responsive." I'm like, I know.
Yeah. Better to have 7,000 of that than 700,000 of just kind of fair weather friends, right?
Well, and how many? I mean, you probably know these people too. They may have a mailing list of 100,000, but only 3,000 of their emails are getting opened.
Yeah, right.
That's not a mailing list of 100,000. That's a mailing list of 3,000.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha. Well, that's really good stuff, Sam. I wanted to ask you just one last thing. I mean, as a frustrated artist, I can't resist asking this, and I'm sure Mark, as an entrepreneur, I don't think he's very frustrated, but what are your, if you could say 1 or 3 of your top tips for getting your goals activated and toward enriching some achievement as an artist or an entrepreneur? If you had like your top, or if you wanted to say top 3, what would those be? Yeah.
The first one is to tune back into the why. You know, why do you want to write that book? Why do you want to publish those T-shirts? Or why do you want to, start acting again, or singing again, or tap dancing again, or decoupaging again? What's calling to you about that? And just to really quickly do that internal check-in, because it's not for the greater glory of you. You know, you're doing it for some other reason. So, I'm doing this for freedom. I'm doing this for my creativity. I'm doing this to honor what spirit gave me. I'm doing this because it reminds me of my grandmother. I'm doing it, so to just put a little 1-second check-in. Why? Mm-hmm. Oh, because it reminds me of the mystical, magical side of me, or the fun side of me, or whatever. And then make a little note for yourself with that word on it, or that phrase on it.
All right.
Then, and I would even take that phrase or that word or that Post-it and stick it on your kitchen timer. Set your kitchen timer for 15 minutes. And spend 15 minutes every day on your project.
Yeah.
Before you check your email.
Yeah.
Before you check your email.
That's important.
Before you check your email.
That'll take you. That derails me right away. Checking the email
instantaneously, and it takes a will of iron to resist the siren call of the email and the internet. But if your work is important to you, and it is, that feeling of procrastination you have is in fact great news, because it's your project. You know, you've had a million ideas that have come and gone, but there's some that are still hanging around going, hey, hi, didn't you wanna, weren't you gonna, and that voice quickly turns into yelling, I can't believe you haven't, and what kind of person are you, blah, blah. But if you can get below the nagging, to realize there's some really strong desire there. And that's great, because desire is the gas in your tank. When you want something, you'll get it done. Mm-hmm. And wherever you put that 15 minutes, for me it works to do it in the beginning or early in the day, because otherwise, the afternoon just gets away from me, and then at night I'm exhausted. So I like to do it early in the day, but whatever works for you. And the first thing I would do is make a list of 15-minute tasks. Because some days you're going to wake up and feel all bold and brave and like, I'm going to call that literary agent because I'm a badass and that's how good I'm feeling today. And other days you'll be like, I'm shy. I don't want to talk to anybody, And you want to have some tasks that are really soft and gentle and, and stuff. And even, and some days you'll set the timer for 15 minutes and you'll work for 3 hours. And sometimes you'll set the timer for 15 minutes and sit there and watch it tick for 15 minutes. But it doesn't, I'm not the first person to come up with this idea. And you don't have to be a genius to go, wow, if I practiced guitar for 15 minutes a day, in a pretty short amount of time, I would be a much better guitar player. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. If I worked on my core muscle groups for 15 minutes a day, and not very long of a time, I would, and even, people say, oh, well, Sam, I do large-scale metal sculptures. There's no way I can work in 15-minute increments. Okay, maybe not. But there's things around it that you can do. Yeah. You can sketch. You can research gallery owners. You can write. You can play with different metals. You can do something small scale. You're a creative genius. Figure it out. There's something you can be doing. And the final thing I will say is, we're all incredibly busy. And we have extremely complex and complicated lives. You're not going to get to everything you need to do today. You're not going to get to the things you should have done yesterday. You're not even going to get to the things that should have been done 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. So why not take the 15 minutes to feed your soul, to feed yourself? Because then, when you do that, you're a better parent. You're a better employee, you're a better synagogue or church member, you're a better friend. You are coming from a happier and more fulfilled place when you know you have done your work. And it only takes this much to start to feel really great about it.
Yeah.